We are part of the Fired Up Sports Network of shows. Please check out other Fired Up Sports Network podcasts like the P-Lot Pod, Water Cooler Talk, Bell Smashers, Philly Sports Love and Pain, Drunk on Broad, Beer Battered Sports, and the Fired Up Sports Show, which are available on all major podcasting hosting sites and social media. Also, check out Mark Ramos' Roundup on firedupsports.com, which breaks down the happenings going on with all your favorite local teams.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the P-LotPodcast. John here, joined once again by Michelangelo with the fresh cut.
Yep.
Dude. So we got our third true Birds home game tomorrow. I can't believe we only had 3 tailgates, and it's
November. Yeah.
because a certain baseball team was expected to perform much better than they actually did. So so we finally have a baseball champion. It's the Los Angeles Dodgers. Whoopee, hooray. Shohei finally gets a ring. Aaron Judge, this might be the biggest playoff choker in Major League history. We have in hockey, Flyers are playing a little bit better. They play the Bruins today at 1 o'clock
I
at
will
the
be in
Wells Fargo
attendance.
Centers,
Very excited.
the Wells Fargo Center. Yeah, everyone I know is going to the game for the most part. This is a big game today. It's the Flyers Bruins last year, and they lost like 7-2. It was a complete bloodbath.
And it's a tough spot coming off a road shutout win in Boston. Their first regulation road win in Boston since I think it was Sean Couturier's debut. So it's been that long since they won a home regulation or a road regulation game against the Bruins. And then it was their first road regulation shutout in over like 20 years in Boston. So nice to do that. And then they had another nice defensive, gritty win at home Thursday against the Blues. But today's definitely a tough spot coming off those 2 wins, the way they won and stuff. So hopes might be a little low, even though they're coming off a couple highs. But
and then we have the Philadelphia 76ers who it's an 82 game season, right, Michael? It's a long season.
I mean, listen, slow start. You're a few better maxi shooting performances away from having a few more wins. Like the team without obviously your 2 best players is going to not be good, especially when one of them's MVP caliber, whatever, the whole 9. But Maxey shot the ball rather poorly to start the season, and it just is like if he shoots like we know he can shoot, we know he's capable of for a whole game, you win probably 2 more games that they've lost at this point. He still didn't have pretty full game numbers in his 45-point performance in the win against the Pacers, but scored the last like 36 of the Sixers' 57 points, something like that in the second half. Like had a brutal first half, came alive in the third quarter, took over the rest of the game. It was nice to see. It was encouraging. But yeah, you're missing them. Paul George, I think, will be back before Embiid, and we'll get back. We'll get into it. So
yeah, and I think we're gonna focus our show today because one of us has to go to the Flyers game, and it's not me on football. So before we hop into the picks, we like to talk about some like this week in football stuff. So
we could do a quick Thursday night recap.
Thursday night. Texans are frauds, in my opinion. I think they're very fraudulent.
Yeah, that was a very, very Thursday night football game. Sloppy, bad offense for the most part. Turns up a little bit in the end of the game to get it exciting because it was kind of close the whole time and, one possession game, whatever. But yeah, the Texans are an interesting team because, CJ Stroud doesn't catch a lot of media slander. for playing poorly. Uh, and he gets a lot of the excuses, "Oh, your top 2 receivers are out," but some quarterbacks, don't get that same sort of treatment, whatever. But
Yeah, I could tell you why I think he gets no slander, but keep going.
yeah. So, the Texans, they're like, the Jets are so irrelevant in this equation, I guess, until they win, like, 4 more games, we can start talking about how, "Oh, that Texans game really turned the season around," but until then, they're a 3-6 football team, like, not worth it. So, more about the Texans, it's interesting because their offensive line, run blocks fairly well. They run very, very effectively. Joe Mixon looks like he's hit, like, a different gear in Houston. I think as the season progresses, he'll get offensive player of the year talks and chatter, maybe not favorite or anything, but I think it'll just come up in conversation, his name. Where the offensive line is terrible is in the pass protection. It's absolutely egregious. That left guard spot's been a black hole all year, and CJ Stroud definitely gets put under duress rather quickly, and especially against a good Jets front, it was exemplified pretty largely on Thursday night. He was constantly under duress, and it's a bad recipe. You have your offensive line's not great or banged up. Your top 2 receivers not being there to kinda help bail things out, and your offense is gonna get stuck in the mud a little bit. I think that's kind of their biggest problem offensively, and then just late game management has been pretty poor, on several occasions where they've been fortunate to escape some close game victories against some very, very inferior opponents or maybe an inferior quarterback, whatever. But, between the Packers game, the way they lost that, where calling defensive plays up a point or up 2 points, whatever, field goal beats you, as if you were up by like a touchdown and being super, super conservative and then getting kind of dinked and shredded all the way down the field range to lose the game. And then you have, this one right here where they have the ball with a minute 20 down 11 and they decide to keep pushing for the end zone, killing another 40 seconds just to kick the field goal anyways. Could have just kicked it to get down, you know, one possession with a minute 20 and you have some timeouts, whatever. You can maybe do a job. Just kinda stupid on that part. It doesn't help Kaimi Fairbairn, a usually reliable kicker. Didn't miss just 1, but 2 kicks, one being like a chip shot. Just they're playing sloppy football. You equated it to the Eagles of last year, where they're finding ways to win a lot of games that they don't feel like you don't feel that great about afterwards, and feels like it all might come to a head, but maybe it's coming to a head a bit sooner because of the injuries that they're sustaining. But it's a mess. It doesn't look pretty, but it also like, it didn't look pretty last year. They just kinda got hot at the right time, and I think that's why everyone was so excited for the Texans because they remembered how the season end, not really how it progressed, and then you got better with Stephon Diggs, and it was supposed to get better, and you added some defensive guys. Like, they were supposed to take some sort of jump, but I think it looks a little too similar to last year for the Texans where they were a nice team and they won a playoff game, but they weren't necessarily world beaters by any
Yeah, but
stretch.
they played a last place schedule last year, so they're playing mostly inferior talent. So
Mhm,
kind of like what the Commanders have been this year, Michael.
mhm.
And the they're yeah, you're correct. I'm not going to sit here and sugarcoat. Their offensive line is not good.
No,
The but I mean, it's not good. But when they're running the ball, they do a great job of
yeah, it's
controlling the.
really just pass protection.
They really, yeah, and I think part of the problem is like they don't really have an identity as an offense. They seem to run the ball very effectively with Joe Mixon, but then when Mixon was hurt, they didn't even try to run the ball. They still won, but they struggled. Uh,
I mean, if
like
you remember last year too, they like Devin Singletary played himself into getting that Giants contract by being a really, really nice running back for the Texans last year. Like, you know, that's why when we talked about Bobby Slowick, we weren't really sold on him because it's not like their passing game was super creative, super ahead of the curve, getting guys wide open all the time. it was Stroud making some nice throws and the receivers
Well,
making some
no,
nice
well, no.
plays.
I think Slowick's offense last year caught people off guard, so it looked really great when he's like Nico Collins is wide open, getting like 50-yard bomb
Yeah.
touchdowns, and like CJ Stroud's like super accurate. Where now that everyone has film on CJ Stroud and Slowick's offense, now teams know what to do to key in on their offense. They really made no adjustments. It's like, oh, we're gonna run the same exact offense,
Yeah.
but we're gonna add Diggs to
They should be a running first team and play to the strength of your offensive line. I know your weapons, you got them all running around out there, but you become a run first team, takes all the pressure off, all that sort of
Well, I
stuff.
think part of the issue too is, I mean, you mentioned earlier about their what happened to them in the red zone. They ran 10 red zone plays and they didn't target Tank Dell one time, and Tank Dell was clearly far and away their best wide receiver of all the receivers that are healthy. Not even
Mhm.
one target in the red zone. They couldn't, like you said, they have no creativity. They couldn't have schemed up one play to like get
Listen,
him the ball.
their offense is very much predicated on Nico Collins being, like, basically Andre Johnson, reincarnated. Like, his big size and his he's a freak athlete that's just as big as he is. Like, they really, really bank on that where he can just get open and out physical people, and, I mean, Tank Dell is not remotely as big as Nico Collins is, so
No,
if
but
their
you
way they scheme stuff is just
pick up like my point where it's like
yeah, that's poor on Texans game planning, and that's like they can't scheme open a shorter, quicker, fast receiver in the red zone, because he's not big and just can
like
outbody somebody.
or like they have like Michael, they have like in the red zone, they have like the Jets have 9 guys in the box because they don't want Joe Mixon to just blast through them and for like up the gut touchdown. So why don't you like
Mhm,
fake and just do like a fake handoff, like end around sweep, and just have him, you know, have like I don't know DJ Reed or Ahmad Sauce Gardner who's like
mhm,
playing like ass all season. I don't know.
yeah,
I don't know. Like it's to me
yeah,
it's really I'm not surprised. Like we kind of even
mhm,
called the Texans kind of like downfall so to speak.
yeah.
To me it's just I do agree. Like you talked about CJ Stroud getting no slack, and I think I know why. Is that the media like if Mahomes is Brady, who is like the Peyton Manning to like
I mean, it should be like Josh Allen. I feel like that
right,
aligns
but
itself
like
pretty
they never beat
effectively.
the Chiefs, so it's not like an even rivalry. Like they
Like,
really
it's
like they desperately want someone to oppose Mahomes because I think I don't know if you agree with
I mean,
me.
they wanted it to if we're being honest, they wanted it to be Burrow. Like, that was who they wanted it to be,
Oh, we'll
and
talk about him in a little bit
that's
before
why
we.
he gets very little slander. He's only now starting to get slander, but he's a guy that they wanted to be the guy. I mean, because he beat Mahomes, and it was like, "Oh my god, the Bengals are gonna go to so many Super Bowl." Like, that's what they wanted, and, the
Yeah,
Bengals are
yeah,
they're poorly ran, so, like, I don't
yeah.
know.
They're poor. Yeah, like let's
Poorly
not like
ran, poorly coached, like,
yeah.
yeah.
So do you just want to talk? I mean, do you want to talk about
Yeah,
the
the
Eagle game before
quarterback
we do the pick?
house what so the quarterback thing, or what'd you say? The quarterback thing as regards to we have a lot of listen, there's a lot of young quarterbacks who are starting, like, under 20, like, 7, but there's also a lot of young quarterbacks that are, like, under 26, under 25 that are now benched, like, not even necessarily, "Oh, they're waiting in the wings," like, they've gotten benched, they've played, they've been benched, they've been relegated to backups across the league, and it's just people are wondering what's going on in the NFL. And, a lot of people have their takes about the development thing. Brady said it. And listen, I even gave him crap where I was like, it's such a different situation than his because he was a sixth round pick. And which I do think that's true, by the way. Like, I don't think Brady's the right example for this because was a late round draft pick. You were never going to start a sixth round rookie to start the season. Like, that was never the case. But You look at the way that quarterbacks are coached all the way back down in, like, middle school. Like, Greg Olson was on a podcast talking about this. He's like, "I coach my kids' middle school football team, and we've played 8 games," and he's like, "6 of the 8 teams we played never took 1 snap under center. 6 of the 8 teams we played never had 2 running backs in the backfield at the same time. They've never had 2 tight ends on the field at the same time." And it's just like he the way that football has changed over the years, obviously that shotgun passing game, you see it even in college where teams in college take knees via the shotgun to end the game. They don't even get under center to take the snap. It's, these quarterbacks, they don't get taught, they don't get coached under center like at all. Like it's only maybe a select plays that they never call in a game, and everything is just from the shotgun. And from the shotgun, you can't run like traditional play action. You can't run a lot of sort of those plays that are meant to be easy. And, Greg also made the point, I agree, is like quarterbacks today are more talented than they've ever been. They're freak athletes. They can throw the ball as far the length of the field. They can throw it across their bodies with great velocity. They can do all this sort of stuff, but they're not being coached like the fine-tuned fundamentals of just being a quarterback. So they're being asked, because they're so gifted, to just kinda carry the entire offense, and you be the engine for the team and do as much as you can, and that should lead us to wins. And when they're not succeeding in that department at age 22 years old, 23 years old, 21 years old, they're getting benched for it. And it's like, Anthony Richardson's the prime example. He's struggled. He struggled with accuracy, he struggled with touch, and he struggled all that sort of stuff. You look at what he did in that game that, he ended up leading to his benching. He threw 3 touchdowns, 2 got dropped, 1 got called back because of a penalty. But granted, he was like 10 for 30, that's never gonna go over well. It was 2 for 15 in the first half, that's never great. However, at 22 years old and the coaching that he had in Florida and the way that they're kinda coaching him now in the NFL with Steichen, it's everything's not clicking, and they're gonna turn to the 40-year-old Joe Flacco to run, and the answer being, "We'll see if we see him again," is just not super encouraging. Like, that's not wanting to develop the quarterback. Like, even Jalen Hurts, when he was drafted, granted, wasn't a top 5 pick, but was drafted with another quarterback here where he didn't play until the final 4 games of the season when it was like, "Okay, like, we are really done with Wentz. We need to sit him, and we gotta see what we have with this other kid." And he was good enough. He wasn't great, but he was good enough to feel encouraged about moving forward with him in the future, and that's exactly what the Eagles did. So, it's just it's tough to see certain quarterbacks that just kinda get thrown to the wolves with an awful team and an awful offensive line and awful coaching, and they don't succeed because obviously they're not gonna succeed. Like, I don't know if you drag and drop CJ Stroud into the Panthers team instead of Bryce Young. Is CJ Stroud gonna all of a sudden drag that team to 7 wins? Like, no, I really don't think so, and it's not even an indictment against Stroud. It's just that Panthers team is disgusting, and, like, Bryce Young, it's, not saying, "Oh, it's not his fault," because clearly he has limitations, but, man, like, that Panthers team is one of the worst rosters I've ever seen in my entire life, and he's not playing well either, but god, so you're just done with him already? Like, they already report came out that they're exploring potential trade suitors for him? Like, my god, you're already giving up on him.
I think Michael. I think if we're gonna do point counterpoint
Mhm,
on this discussion, I'm gonna have probably I don't know if I have to take the counterpoint just so we're not just parroting because I agreed with a lot of what you said.
mhm,
I think the issue to me, I think a big issue. Well, there's a couple things that we need to keep in mind here. Number one, all these quarterbacks that are getting drafted, some of them are going to have to bust out. Some of them are going to have to bust. That's just the unfortunate truth of it. In 1999, there were, I believe, 6 quarterbacks taken in the first round.
Mhm.
The only two that weren't quote unquote busts were Donovan McNabb and Dante Culpepper. You had
Mhm.
Cade McNown, Achilles Smith, and then Tim Couch.
Yeesh.
I'm sorry, 5 quarterbacks taken in the first round,
Yeesh.
right? Yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
Exactly. And literally two of like Cade McNown and Achilles Smith just could not play. Like it's just they could just not play. Tim Couch was on an expansion Browns team. He got the crap beaten out of him, and then he couldn't play because he kept getting hurt because he got the tar beaten out of him. Right?
Mhm.
That's just an unfortunate fact. It just sucks, right? But when it comes to like the Bryce Young and Richardson, Bryce Young needs to play because there's no reason for them to play Andy Dalton every game because he is literally just as bad as Bryce Young is right now. There's no reason why. It's
Mhm.
not like Andy Dalton is like Sam Darnold right now, where you're like, he's playing really well, and
No,
Bryce
Andy
Young,
Dalton's almost 40. Like, it's
it
just
really doesn't make any sense. I
there's
agree with that.
no there's no, like,
Richardson, I
second
feel
coming.
here's the difference between Richardson and Bryce Young. Richardson does not appear to be in shape. He took himself out of the game because he was tired.
Like,
And
that's why I think he's actually being benched. I don't
that
think
is
it has
why he
anything to
is
do with his
benched.
play. Yeah.
That is why he's benched. And I think a lot of his teammates that, like I think Dan Orlovsky kind of said it best. He's like, how can I realistically, we're driving down in the fourth quarter with like 8 minutes to play. And I'm like, you
Mhm.
got to give me, tell my O line, you got to give me your all. You got to give me
Yeah.
your all. Let's go. But, and then you're taking yourself out because you're tired and, you're like, you don't know the plays and you're misreading plays. Like the drop passes are one thing, but some of the, not to defend the drops on the receivers, Anthony Richardson has so much like arm power. Like
He lacks touch on his
he needs
throws
to put touch
sometimes.
on some of the passes.
Yeah.
Like, people that bitched about Jalen Hurts, like his like, oh, he's got a noodle arm, he can't zip in passes like Josh Allen. Like I get if you ask any wide receiver, like if you like people gave Kurt Warner crap because he
Mhm.
didn't have arm strength, a whole lot of arm strength. His like I think I forget who said it. It might have been like
Was it
wide
Anquan Bolden?
it might have been Anquan Bull, and he's like, I feel like he's easily
I
the best
forget.
quarterback I've ever played with. I feel like I'm catching pillows when he's throwing me the ball. It
Yeah.
makes it so easy to catch the ball.
Yeah, and it's you make a good point with that. Like, Richardson would benefit from sitting from the beginning and truly, like, learning and getting serious practice reps and development stuff, and he was started right away as a rookie last year. Um, Obviously got hurt. He's been hurt a few times. It's tough, and I think he
It's
could really
Ursay.
benefit.
Ursay wants him to play. Wanted him to
Yeah,
play.
it's like Daniel Snyder forcing
Yes,
RG3 to play with the
the,
bad knee.
that's the thing. That's where I think the Richardson situation's bad is because Richardson is legitimately like the Jordan Love like test case. Like he
Yeah.
needs to sit for like 2 years, learn the offense, and like in those 2 years, work on his throwing motion, work on his footwork,
Yeah,
and
like
then when
Jordan Love
he's
wasn't throwing like Aaron Rodgers in college, but all of a sudden when he got to the NFL, we're seeing all the comparisons when their arm slots and the way they throw look the same, you know?
and like real, let's be honest, if in 2 years, if Michael Penix is like, I don't know, a top 12 quarterback 2 years from now, all of us that were like making fun of them for picking them are going to be like, "Oh wow, that's a good pick because Kirk Cousins is washed up,
He's
and
old, yeah.
and they could now win a division title or something." I don't know, like that's
Yeah. The
you know
biggest Go ahead, go ahead.
I think a big problem here is that the number one, it's coaching. Um, Number two, it's there's a reason why guys used to sit a couple years when at least their rookie year when they got drafted. It's because they need to, like you said, work on the fundamentals, but work on the fundamentals while learning the offense because the NFL, this is not on the job training.
No, no. It's never. it's never a good thing when you're like, he's still learning the offense as he's out there. Like, and that's never a good thing to hear.
Yeah, and like unless the guy is so super talented and
Mhm.
smart, where like everyone on the team is like, why the hell is he not playing? Like Drake May, where they're like, why the hell? Like they're like Drake is literally outperforming Brissett in every
Mhm.
single facet. He's the one that should be playing, sort of
Mhm.
deal. No,
Yeah.
like yeah,
The problem, Josh Allen has negatively impacted how teams view prospects, like, significantly. Because Josh Allen is the, like, special case of this freak athlete, big arm, big body that can run through somebody's face, can throw the ball 80 yards down the field, and is successful. Like, it's really very rarely occurred where someone like Josh Allen exists, and now everyone's trying to find the next one, and I think that's part of the reason that Anthony Richardson was drafted so high. But I think everyone just chose to forget that Josh Allen wasn't built overnight and that it took him legitimately till his 3rd season to really, really take a jump as a quarterback. His first 2 years, it was the popular fun thing to make fun of Josh Allen and say, "Well, what stupid play has Josh Allen made this week? What stupid thing did he do? How many stupid things did Josh Allen do in that Texans playoff game where he's throwing a jump ball to a fullback to end the game. He's trying to lateral the ball on a 20-yard scramble he has. He's just running down one side, firing it to the other side. Like he was playing like a crazed person out there, and that was in his first
yeah.
career playoff game. And everyone was like, "My God, this guy's an idiot. This guy's so stupid. This guy's terrible." And the
Well, can
following
I?
year,
May
he
I?
took a
I have
jump.
I have his stats pulled up. Josh Allen's stats
Yeah.
pulled up. So his rookie year with the Bills, 28. I think I I have a last point to make, and then we can move on to the picks.
Mhm.
Josh Allen in 2018, five wins, 6 losses, 52.8 completion percentage, uh,
Oof.
10 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. Rushing though, this is his rushing stats: 89 carries, 631 yards, 8 touchdowns.
He was impressive on the ground. Listen, the Bills had a running back non-existent, like the post LaShawn McCoy, pre really like
But
James
I think
Cook.
here's the difference though between like the Colts and the Bills. This is where I think that here's the difference. The Colts had Peyton Manning. The Colts had Andrew Luck. There's like expectation for Anthony Richardson to be kind of as good as those guys. Michael, who the hell did the Bills have at quarterback?
Like
Where
post Jim Kelly, like yeah,
so they're like, we don't care if it takes 3 years for him to be good. If he's good, we're gonna be so happy. It's like, if the Browns' next quarterback, right?
yeah. No one, people will wait on a Browns quarterback.
Like if Jameis
Well, that's
plays
why
well the
Baker
rest of the
got so
year,
much.
they're gonna
Yeah,
he's the new quarterback there because they
well,
don't
that's yeah,
they
because
just want a
Baker got a
competent
lot of
quarterback.
patience too. Baker got a lot of patience as well. But like you're right. Like the issue is that I don't know.
What
Like
the
you're
Colts should have
drafting
did.
a guy to be the next Josh Allen. I think you should treat him the way Josh Allen was treated, and it's like you treat it with patience and you treat it with time, and you know
But
you
I
need
think
to find the
I
right
think
setup.
I think it's because he took himself out of the game.
That's
But
why he's getting benched, but it's like just the average discourse surrounding him, where it's like this guy blows, shouldn't be in the, and it's like man, you know.
I mean, having a worse completion percentage than Jamarcus Russell is a
Yeah,
little
listen, it's
concerning.
it's an awful it's an
That's a
awful
little
start.
concerning.
Absolutely is a little concerning, and if there's issues where he's not watching film the same way Jamarcus Russell never did, like, then I think you get into legitimate issues and whatnot, but if it's just truly, like, he's just not playing well, I think there's gotta be a little more grace,
But I think the issue. I think not the issue, but I think part of it, Michael, is
mhm,
that You look at Shane Steichen and you look at his track record. Justin Herbert, at rookie year, Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert as a
I mean,
rookie
he was incredible. He was a
was a
god in
damn
his
good
rookie year.
quarterback.
He was
Jalen
incredible his rookie year.
Jalen Hurts developed into an MVP. It took Jalen Hurts maybe like 6 or 7 starts under Steichen before he got really comfortable in that offense and started
Yeah,
looking
his first
really
year as a
good.
starter, it took a while for that offense to look good, but even then, there was still doubts about Jalen, and then, obviously, he took the jump the year they went to the Super Bowl, the year they got A.J. Brown, like, I don't know, it's
Richardson looked good before he got hurt last year. Do you remember?
Yeah, I remember he was running really well. He got hurt a few times, and I don't know, it just feels like, if you're the Colts, I know, like, you're there on the playoff cusp, especially now the Texans floundering, like, you might even be in division talks as the year progresses, but I don't know, I think as a team, as an organization, you need to really prioritize making sure that this quarterback is good and works out before you try to win something with Joe Flacco.
I agree.
Like, Joe Flacco's not going on a Super Bowl run, man, like,
No,
it's
no,
not
but
happening.
if Anthony Richardson's not 100% healthy, like if his issues are like his shoulders jacked up still and he needs.
Yeah, no, if he's gotta sit, he's gotta sit, but, like, when Shane Steichen they ask him, "Oh, like, are we gonna see Anthony Richardson again?" And he's like, "Yeah, I mean, like, I hope so, we'll see."
Yeah, I
Like,
hope so.
"I hope so, we'll see?" Shane, what
That
the f dude,
you know what that sort of tells me? It wasn't his decision to make.
I I don't know, man, like, he seemed pretty, like, pissed, and, like, first of all, that whole team is brutally media trained, like, no one lies to the media, and it's, like, things you absolutely should be lying about. Like, Anthony Richardson should not be saying to the media, "I took myself out of the game." Whatever when they asked I forget who they asked, "Oh, do you think, like, you'll be playing with Richardson? Like, do you think Richardson will come back soon?" Whatever, and he was like, "I mean, Joe Flacco's, like, he's pretty old, and Richardson's only what, like, 22? Like, so yeah, I guess I see that. It's like, what are we talking about here? Like, the quarterback that just got named the starter's old, so I don't expect him to play much long like, not that you're wrong, but it just man, the things that these guys say in the Colts locker room is insane.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy though because the Colts have weapons. It's not like Bryce Young where he's got like used gum
No,
wrappers
yeah.
and like empty soda cans to
I
work with.
think I think one of the most prime examples at this point to look at the rookie quarterbacks this year, and you look at how they're playing. Caleb Williams, we felt was like a crazy good talent. So even though the play calling is atrocious and the offensive line play is maybe worse, he's still getting into somewhat of a rhythm, and you're seeing enough flashes throughout the course of each game and good stretches where you're like, okay, this is the guy we believe. You know, we'll figure out this offensive line. If you're upper management, you're like, we'll figure out the coaching staff. Whatever you believe in Caleb Williams, you think everything's gonna be fine. Jaden Daniels, on the other hand, he was a guy that had legitimate concerns coming out of the draft from most fans. Not that teams loved him, but and maybe they're teams for a reason, but the fans were worried about some certain aspects of his game, and you're just watching how the Commanders, even with coaching that we don't necessarily think is that great in Cliff Kingsbury, you're watching how easy they make his job with quick, behind the line of scrimmage, getting the ball out, quick completions, and, you know, allowing the game to be just coming to him, and then what he excels at so well is that deep ball down the sideline that you can call those in a game, and he's gonna drop it in the bucket, and the one he did, over the left sideline was incredible, and he feels like he has 1 or 2 of those every single week. Um, Anthony Richardson, when he was 2 of 15 in the first half, his average depth of target was over 20 yards. Do you know how insane that is? That your average air yard of you passing the ball is over 20 yards throughout a half? What quarterback in the history of the NFL is going to succeed that way? Where your average throw on 15 passes in the first half is going for 20+ yards.
That's what he did in Florida. He would just throw the
That's my
ball
point.
deep
And
every
he didn't
play.
have
That's on
great
him.
numbers, and he didn't have great numbers in Florida though. Like I think that's something that you can coach out of him. Stop calling plays that even go 20 yards down the field. Just stop. Just call stuff underneath, and like he's going to have to throw it.
Nick Sirianni would love Anthony Richardson and be.
Oh my God, he'd be throwing rockets down the
He
field.
was
If
chuck
Nick
plays
gets
every
fired,
play.
I guarantee he's calling Shane. He's like, I gotta get in there. Let me get into Indy. God. Anyways, on to the picks. Um, the first game we have is a lot of the 1 o'clock slate is some garbage, I have to say. First game we have here, we have the 2-6 Patriots on the road against the 1-6 Titans. The Titans are at 3.5-point favorites at home. No Drake May, and if there's no Drake May, I don't think there's ever a point of tuning into a Patriots game. Truly just an awful viewing of football when he's not in there. And this isn't even a knock on Jacoby Brissett as much as it's just like their offense is so uninspiring and it's not that fun. And granted, they had a nice win against the Jets last week, but yeah, I think the Titans are coming off a bye. Eh, they're so like I don't think it's Will Levis, right? It's still Mason Rudolph.
I believe our friend Mr. Levis that his injury might have be like a pseudo benching.
Yeah, I think so
He's
too.
questionable. Oh, he could
Mm,
play.
could play. Well, I don't know. I don't even know, assuming he plays or doesn't, how that
If
affects
Mason
anything.
Rudolph plays this game, the Titans will win and cover the spread. If the Titans decide to force a semi-injured Will Levis in there, we could see probably one of the ugliest games of the season. Between two teams, like it's going to be like
Yeah, it's
you
gonna be
know,
gross.
it's
All
going
right,
to be
well,
a horror movie.
I'll take Tennessee then. I'm taking the Titans.
I'm taking Tennessee as well. Oh, I'm sorry, Michael. Do you have our picks from last week?
Yes, I do.
Do you
What would you like to hear about the picks from last week?
just lay it on me?
We
Lay it
were
on.
we were we were last week was strong because we had every pick was the same except for the Sunday night game. We deferred. I took San Fran and you took Dallas, obviously. See how
Yeah,
that
we'll
went.
talk
But
about the
so last
the
week,
Cowboys.
last week I went 11-4. You went 10-5. Um, See, I talked myself up on the Browns covering, and they obviously won the freaking game. But I talked
Yeah, why
myself
would
out of
you
it.
trust them in any capacity?
I talked it up, and I was like, like it makes all the sense in the world for them to cover, but we'll take the right. Like I was just dumb. Um, we both lost on the Hail Mary, and we both lost on Miami choking away to the Cardinals, and we both lost on the Raiders barely covering the big spread against Kansas City. So yeah, it was a strong week for us. That last week was a good week. Next game we have after the Titans Patriots is the Chargers and the Browns. This line swung to Chargers -1.5. Um, Herbert Herbert looks very, very good this year. I know that the numbers aren't necessarily backing it up, but he's making a lot
When
of
does he look bad
throws. Yeah,
or okay?
he doesn't look bad. He doesn't look whatever. He looks very, very effective, and his some of his advanced numbers are very, very good. Like he has, uh, I forget what it was, but all year he's thrown like one pass that has been intercepted or dropped intercepted, like whatever stat tracks dropped picks as well. He's not putting the ball in harm's way. He's getting creative and elusive with his legs, finding his guys down the field. It's good. I'm taking the Chargers on the road here. Browns coming off a huge win against Baltimore. Feels like a classic letdown spot. Jameis coming off, a game that he actually had like what 4 dropped interceptions, at least 3 of them. Some of them were just
Yeah, it
awful.
was basically Jameis football. He's gonna look like Brett Favre, where he's gonna run around, make plays, and then he's gonna throw some passes where you're like, "What the hell are you doing?"
Yeah, like the drop pick by Kyle Hamilton to end the game. That was one of the worst dropped interceptions I've ever seen. immediately followed up with a pass to get them with a
I
40-yard
would
touchdown.
say I would say if like worst dropped interceptions I've seen all season, number one, Nakobe Dean, week 1 against the Packers. That was just egregious. Number two, Kyle Hamilton.
There was
For
another
some reason,
Ravens one in that
he
game
looked like he
too.
was shocked the ball was thrown at him. Like the
Yeah.
ball was legit straight up thrown at
It
him.
was thrown like he was the receiver. Like he was going to catch it and run upfield for a
I
touchdown.
think we know how great Kyle Hamilton's the best
No,
safety
listen,
in
this
pro
isn't an
football.
indictment on his play. It's just like
I think it was
you
like
got
one of
to
those deals where he's like, all right, I'm going to be dropping into like a hook zone. I need to be in this spot. And then like, oh shit, the ball's in my hands. I'm like, oh my God. Like it's just,
Yeah. Yeah, I think
he
he's
legit looks shocked that the
yeah.
ball was thrown at him.
Hmm. But I'm taking the Chargers. I actually like what they're doing as a team, and I believe in Herbert. We said it all in the offseason when they hired Jim Harbaugh that Herbert's going to be asked to do the least amount of, you know, at least statistically and what it's going to look like, but people are going to start giving him the most credit. So,
I have a hot take about this Chargers team, Michael.
hmm
I think of all the teams in the AFC that could challenge the Chiefs, I think that's the team that's built to beat them potentially in a playoff game might be this Chargers team.
yeah, yeah.
It,
I think the Chargers are an absolute candidate to upset any of the big AFC teams in the playoffs. I think they just between when you get a coach like Harbaugh that's like he believes he can beat anybody and like a really good quarterback, their defense is playing well. It's all going to be
because
possible.
I think the Chargers, I think Herbert, you look at Herbert versus Mahomes. Mahomes like leading the league in INTs. Like, I'm
Mhm.
sorry, if it wasn't Patrick Mahomes, we would be crapping on that guy.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
Herbert has probably the same amount to work with, and he's like you said, he looks great.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm taking the Chargers as well. Um, I wouldn't be surprised if they win by like a field goal.
Mhm.
They
Yeah.
and there's you got some serious juice money, there.
Yeah.
But we'll see. Oh God.
Next game we have
Oh
Saints
man.
Saints at the Panthers. This isn't it's just so unwatchable.
Yeah, bro.
Saints
You
are
remember how remember when I was like, "Hey, story
Hmm.
time with John." Remember when I'm like, you're like, "Hey, when you're watching Justin Fields play quarterback for the Steelers, you're like, hey, if you wondered what like the 1997 Pittsburgh Steelers were like
Mhm.
watching, like this is what
It
it's
was
like.
that.
If you
Yeah.
if you want to know what it was like watching like the NFC Central, that's what it used to be, the Central Division,
That's
between two
this.
just like literally ass teams. Like here you go,
Mhm.
the Aints versus the Kitty Cats,
Yeah.
Panthers.
Panthers 7.5-point underdogs at home. I really feel like I should be taking the Panthers to cover the spread, right? Like, I think I am. I'm gonna take Carolina plus 7.5. Just an ugly, close game.
Is Derek Carr playing in this game?
I don't think so. Actually, I don't know. I shouldn't say that with confidence.
I think he is. I'm taking the Saints.
Carr's playing. I didn't know Carr was playing.
If the Saints lose
You
this
know, I'll
game,
take the Saints. You're right.
yeah, dude. The Panthers got their one win.
Mhm.
They're not going to go winless. You know, yeah. Give me the Saints.
Mhm. All right. Next game is the oh boy, nice little trauma day for the Dolphins. The Dolphins are on the road against the Bills. Obviously, last time these two teams played this year, it did not end well for Tua. The Dolphins last week, they had did everything they could to lose. Tua drops the snap. It was, a hard play to make. I get it, but it just can't happen.
Hey,
Lashing out at the
you were
media
eating
for it.
potato chips on the couch, Michael.
Yeah,
You could have
I
said
I
that.
was eating potato chips. I would have also dropped it. I also am not an NFL quarterback. That's kind of it. Uh, he looked fine, like, he looked well, he looked pretty normal, he ran and slid, and everyone was like, "Oh my god." Tyreek Hill was involved in the offense for the first time in, like, almost 2 months. Yeah, it was all in all just like a normal frustrating Dolphins loss against, an opponent that is gonna always put up a fight. The Cardinals have kind of been doing all season. Um, yeah, it was not pretty, the way that they kinda choked that game away at the end, and the whole way, it felt like they coulda just put him away, and they never did. And then Buffalo coming off a shellacking of the battered and injured, Seattle Seahawks in the rain. Josh Allen, I think he's gonna if Lamar loses another tough game the way he did against Cleveland, not necessarily saying it's his fault, but if the Ravens just do and the Bills finish as like the 2 seed, I think we'll see Josh Allen get an MVP perhaps, but, the Bills look good. Adding Amari Cooper obviously helps a good chunk with that receiving core. That might have honestly been enough to help unlock Keon Coleman, which I think is all the Bills could ask for with that. James Cook still looks very, very good. It's just Bills are clicking on offense. I'm taking Buffalo -6. They're 6-point favorites, which I do think is a little steep. I think people are trying to really see how much people believe in Buffalo, but I believe in Buffalo significantly more than Miami, and it just feels like this is gonna be a lost season for them,
I do.
under
I have
McVay.
to say this though about the Dolphins themselves. I know
Mhm,
it sucks. Like I think Mike McDaniel. I think the bloom is off the rose, so to speak, with him.
mhm.
With how badly he handled the Tua injury, and I think just how like basically you saw. Did you remember what happened when Fangio left? And
Yeah,
a lot
all the
of the
players were
players
like,
were like,
"That
hip hip
old man."
hooray, like
Yeah.
this guy sucks, he's an asshole, whatever. And you just see how soft of a team the Dolphins are. That's part of that's on the head coach, man.
No, it definitely is. You
Like when the
you
Eagles collapsed last year, we wanted to fire Sirianni with how soft they are. Like we blame the coach for the culture.
Yeah, it's a culture thing. Miami is a soft team, and honestly, it, like, revolves around their scheme. Like, their offense is not any sort of power, any sort of strength. It's just speed and outrun you and out motion you to make things hell for you. And perhaps there are rule changes that kind of prevent the Dolphins like cheating motion that they ran last year that just kind of felt illegal. Maybe that's also hurting them a bit. But yeah, like that bleeds through into the whole team. And defensively, they're very soft against you know any sort of strong offense. And Buffalo runs a very, very strong offense.
Yeah, I'm taking the Bills.
Next game we have Cowboys Falcons. Ooh, the Cowboys, they look
I'll be right back. Let me go get my
disinterested.
shovel so I can go bury Dak.
Yeah, they look disinterested. They look tired. They look lazy. It's all they look just all about terrible. This is definitely Dak Prescott's. I think it's his worst year as a starter, for sure.
Let me pull
We
up his stats so we
see,
can fact check that. But I feel like
yeah,
he's correct.
even if the stats are not like the stats feel like they have to back, but just watching him, he looks worse than he's ever done in his career. Um, CeeDee Lamb, I saw some interesting stats that his contested catch rate last year and the year before were very, very low, and it's why he's very effective is because they can scheme him open really well,
Excuse
and
me.
they bless you, they are, great at getting Lamb in space and giving him an easy catch and just letting him work after the catch. And this year, his contested catch rate has gone up a lot more without the threat of any running game because they have zero of it. Combine that with, you know, all their other receiving threats really being minimal as well. You can key on CeeDee Lamb much more than you've been able to in previous years, and make his life harder. the Cowboys, they do this thing every week. Dak Prescott is, put up a lot of big number seasons because of this, and CeeDee Lamb kinda similarly, that Dak Prescott goes, like, what was it? It was, like, 13 of 20 something for 100 something yards, no touchdowns, 2 picks, and the Cowboys are down 17 points. Game's pretty much all but over, then Dak cooks, like, 6 of 8 for, or not 6, but for like 9 to 10 and a bunch of yards and handful of touchdowns. Defense gets a stop, and the Cowboys all of a sudden have a chance to tie the game late in the 4th, and then he goes 0 for 6 in those passing opportunities. CeeDee Lamb goes from having a very mediocre stat line to a huge stat line because he catches all these big plays while the Cowboys are down 17 in the 4th quarter to help drag them back into it, and it's just, you know, it's empty stats to me, it's empty calories, it's
You know,
nothing that really
I
moves
went for
me.
a walk last night because I was just
Mhm,
mentally preparing for our show today. I'm trying to think like what's a good comp quarterback wise for like Dak Prescott, and he really is like Philip Rivers. Like Philip Rivers when he was with the Chargers was like the garbage time master because he
mhm,
played on so many bad football teams,
mhm,
and like he never won anything,
mhm,
because he played on bad teams. But I think that's a good comp for Dak because Phil Rivers and Dak are both pretty good quarterbacks,
mhm.
but like they need good coaching to like really shine.
Yeah, this
And
is, like, easily the worst iteration of the Dak era Dallas Cowboys.
like right now, like Kellen Moore is probably laughing his ass off at how bad the Cowboys offense looks because he got
Mhm,
blamed for that playoff loss against the Niners, the first one,
mhm, mhm,
right? He's the one that fell on the sword.
mhm,
And you look at how the Eagles are cooking, they got weapons. The Dallas Cowboys to me, like if there ever is a time where Jerry Jones needs to have self-reflection and let
sell the team.
well, just I don't know, let someone run his team, and he just sits
Yeah,
in the box. Like this is the year because like I'm not gonna listen. Dak has just Dak has 10 touchdowns, 8 picks. Michael, he's got 10
easy.
touchdowns and 8 picks. Half those touchdowns feel like they're garbage time scores.
Yeah,
Like
no, for sure. He's having, it's easily the worst year of his career.
this is it's not like 2020 Carson bad. It's kind of
No, but
feels
it's bad, it's
it's
not
bad.
good. Yeah, and this is the worst Cowboys team. Their defense is very, very soft as well as their offense is. Um,
Like Michael Parsons is injured, but you don't really see him rushing back to get on the field.
no, and listen, contractually talk about all this stuff, whatever.
Yeah,
They got
I think he
culture
could be.
problems out there.
Yeah, exactly. I think he could be pulling a Lamar where it's like I'm not
Listen,
going to come back because the team is incompetent.
yeah, I'm not gonna come back while the team's shaky, where I could risk my health and lose out on whatever. So, yeah, and as long as Micah Parsons doesn't play, the rest of that defense is pretty garbage. Like it just, they miss him tremendously, and like Deron Bland's supposed to be coming back this week, but I just don't think it matters a ton. And then Atlanta, Kirk Cousins has looked great the last couple weeks. He really looks like he's finding his rhythm with that offense, and things are just kind of clicking. Drake London looks like he's really maturing into that number one receiver. Kyle Pitts had some, obviously he fumbled, but it was he avoided disaster, but he had a couple big plays, couple touchdowns. So, yeah, it was a nice win for Atlanta offensively. I think their defense is not amazing, but I don't think it matters. I'm taking Atlanta -3.5 at home.
I'm taking Atlanta minus 3.5 at home. Michael, I'm looking at Bijan Robinson's stats for this
Mhm,
year, and he is averaging 4.7 yards per carry,
mhm.
546 rushing yards in 8 games. He's got 9 more games left to play. Obviously, I think he's going to finally get 1,000 rushing yards. Why do I feel like tomorrow against the Cowboys, where everyone's going to be watching the game because people like us hate watch the Cowboys,
Now,
as do
this is
most of America,
easily,
and
yeah,
obviously Cowboys fans, we're going to see, the University of Texas legend, Bijan Robinson. He's going to trample all over the Dallas Cowboys.
yeah. I mean, this is easily the best 1 o'clock game, which is saying a
I
lot.
feel like they're going to take the governor off of Bijan now and they're going to do like what the Lions did with Gibbs.
hmm Yeah, yeah. Next game we have the Broncos and the Ravens. This game is just not. I feel like it's not worth talking a ton about. The Ravens are 9.5 point favorites at home, coming off an awful loss. It feels like they should stomp Denver. Um, although Denver is 5-3, which I don't know, man. Like you tell me how the Broncos are. I know they have
Sean
a very
Payton, I
bad.
mean, Michael, I hate Sean Payton. I am not a Sean Payton guy. I think he's arrogant. I think he's a jerk.
Oh yeah, he's a horrible person.
But, but, but,
Yeah.
Michael, like his mentor is Bill Parcells. Bill
No,
Parcells, when
listen,
he would
he's
go from
been
team
some
to team, he'd fix them.
good football mind for sure. And
I
he's
would
got
say if
whatever.
Denver wins this game, and they win 10 games this year,
Yeah,
how
Sean
is Sean
Payton's gonna
Payton not
coach
the
you.
coach of the year?
No, for sure. But I don't know. I think Baltimore, although their defense is still not great, Bo Nix, he looked pretty good against the Panthers. Granted, it was the Panthers, but I don't know. I think the Ravens, after so many dropped picks, feels like they get a few this week. I'm taking Baltimore
I'm
minus
gonna
nine and a
take
half.
Baltimore as well at home, bounce back. I mean, Lamar, I think, is still the front runner for MVP. Um, they picked up Deontay Johnson
hmm I
this
think that
week.
was a nice little move for them.
I
I
thought
like
that. I mean,
Deontay
honestly,
Johnson.
though, Michael, I think Baltimore's undoing is their defense. Their defense stinks.
Yeah, and I think they're just trying to build an offense that can outscore teams.
Oh, fair enough. I'm taking Baltimore
Next
as well.
next game we have the Raiders at the Bengals. Bengals coming off a disaster loss against the Eagles. Kind of controlled the whole first quarter, looked good the whole first half, and then totally stymied by the Eagles defense the entire kind of rest of the game. Vic Fangio was throwing some creative defensive looks at him, having Nakobe Dean manned up on Jamar Chase, which obviously is the dumbest thing ever if it doesn't work. But it works because they ran a nice little stunt and got a free runner on Burrow, and Burrow had no time to find Chase against the linebacker. So, every good defense run some sort of variation of just something so unpredictable that it works. And you can't obviously run it all the time because it'll start getting abused, but you break it out every now and again, and it's almost never fails because you pull it out in the right situation. And, you know, the young DBs played well. Um, Point being, the Bengals, they miss T. Higgins a lot when he doesn't play. He is like, Jamar Chase is obviously their superstar. He's their big play. He's their reliable guy, whatever. But T. Higgins, when he's on the field, is like he's the security blanket. He is
Oh,
the big like we need to move the chains. I'm looking at T. Higgins to make a catch in traffic with a guy draped on him and the ball's away from his body and he's just got to use his hands and he needs a big catch. Like that's
I
their
don't
guy for that.
Michael. I think you're right, but I think big picture, they miss Joe Mixon.
Yeah, I do think their offensive
They
line
can't
is
run the
still not
ball.
good.
The reason they lost against the Eagles, besides the fact their defense got cooked the second half,
Mhm,
is the Eagles, even when they were like getting nickeled and dimed the first half, the Bengals could not establish the run.
mhm,
And then Joe Burrow had to play hero ball the second half because they couldn't do anything else. And that's when you saw when guys play hero ball, Michael, as you well know, that's when quarterbacks start making bad decisions or
mhm,
their mistakes get amplified. The
mhm,
interception by C.J. Gardner-Johnson where Isaiah Rodgers tips it. That was a bad pass. It was
Mhm.
severely underthrown. That pass has to be overthrown where Chase has to go run and get the ball, or it's an incompletion. No, you don't throw an interception. It was second down, I think, on that play too. So you have another down
Mhm.
to play with.
Yeah.
And then you had like the 4th-and-1 stop where why did they throw it on 4th-and-short? Because they
Yeah.
couldn't run the ball.
Yeah. Great play by Cooper DeJean, by the way. But yeah, they do like Mixon. Mixon, remarkable how he looks like he got just so much better down there. But yeah, Bengals offensive line, it's like really hasn't been great since they drafted Joe Burrow, and that like still continues. It's just they have deeply rooted issues that will, unfortunately, from this point on, kind of disallow them to be a serious contender. They had their shot. They had their shot on their sort of kind of voodoo doll magic season where, the defense is playing out of its mind and they just had to make a few plays on offense late to win a game. And their rookie kicker like couldn't miss. And now he's, not that he blows, but it's like he's not as good as he was the rookie year.
Let's face it. Zach Taylor's a Nimrod. Like fourth and
And
three, you're
that's what
moving the
you get.
ball. Why do you kick a field goal?
Yeah, and that's what you get. So, yeah, yeah, Bengals have some issues. Regardless, we're in this game, I'm gonna take them to win and cover. They're 7-point
I'm
favorites at
taking the
home against the
Bengals as well.
Raiders. Raiders are
Serious.
terrible. They're one of
This
the
would
worst
be a
teams in the league.
serious indictment on Zach Taylor if they fail to win this game.
Yeah, yeah,
I think because there's no reason why they shouldn't win this game, in my opinion.
yeah.
Oh boy!
All right. Next game, the Commanders are on the road against the Giants. Coming off, what a win! What a Hail Mary. Shout out to Tyreek Stevenson of the Bears for taunting fans during the first half of that Hail Mary, um, and then not picking up his guy, which ultimately was the guy that caught the touchdown.
I know
It
that cost
truly
you. I know that cost you a parlay, Michael. I vented about the
cost
stupidity of
me
the
a
Texans
parlay.
because they just would not throw. At least
Yeah.
try to throw a ball once to Tank Dell in the red zone. But Michael, that might have been one of the most literally. I'm trying to think of like the dumbest football plays I've ever watched. Like
Like, not even in terms of, like, dumbest, like, "Oh, what a bad play call," or, like, the Colts thing, like, that's the famous one, like but, like, in terms of, like, a dumb individual effort, that is probably the worst, where, your Hail Mary situation, and you're
he's
already
their
counting your
starting corner,
chickens.
and they benched him this week because of it.
Listen, you gotta send some sort of message, and the Bears, you can see what the problem is and how much of a moron Matt Eberflus is,
I think they're all
when
morons on that team, but keep going.
when he legitimately concedes, like, the chunk play to allow them to get the Hail Mary, Bill Belichick famously ran, no free 5 defense in these situations where a team's on their own, like, 35 and not necessarily close enough to try the Hail Mary. So Bill Belichick's gonna go press his corners and make sure that you're not gonna get the free 10-ish yards that you need to feel more comfortable with a Hail Mary opportunity. What did the Bears do? Everybody was back. Everybody was back, and very easily connected with Terry McLaurin, got close enough to hit the Hail Mary opportunity, and that's all rest is whatever. Dan Quinn could not stress enough how important that play was. Like, they did the side by side, Dan Quinn talking about it and Matt Eberflus talking about it. Dan Quinn says, "Yeah, I mean, that's arguably more important than the Hail Mary itself. You can't run the Hail Mary if you don't get that. So we needed that, and I knew once we got that, I was like, okay, now we have a chance. We can, take our shot." Matt Eberflus, when asked about it, was like, like, I don't really care about that. It's all about executing on the Hail Mary. And it's like, dude, you can prevent the Hail Mary from happening if you just and again, it's not like if they're gonna wanna throw, like a contested out route on a press corner for like 12 yards and they complete it, then damn, they complete it. Like, so be it. Good for you. Like, that's, I'm not telling you to run press coverage across the entire line of scrimmage where you can get beat over your head for a touchdown, but at least have a corner on each side guarding the sideline like that, where it's like, okay, I'm at least here. Instead of, what did McLaurin get, like 15 yards on that play? Instead of that, maybe he only gets 8 yards. And like, that's still probably not necessarily enough for the Hail Mary to get completed. You know what I'm
Well,
saying?
Michael, you're making a very compelling argument for why the prevent defense prevents you from winning, and I think
It's so dumb in that like you know what they're trying to do. They're not gonna run a chunk play for 30 yards to try to get, like, no, they're gonna just try to get about 15 and make the Hail Mary easier. And then everyone gives the argument, oh, well, that's why you should blitz on the Hail Mary. And I don't necessarily disagree. Like, the only time it
well,
ever really
I mean,
burned
Michael, how
was,
many Hail Marys have you seen successfully completed?
that's what I'm saying. Like, the only one that blitzed and got completed was, like, that I can remember, is the Rodgers ones against the Cardinals, and that just feels like an anomaly because Rodgers is so good at them.
Well, keep in mind too, Jaden Daniels has the
Had a
broken
rib
rib.
injury, so yeah, I probably would have sent a blitz and not let him as much as I could, or do what the Texans did against the Colts last week, where they only rushed three, but they rushed 3 to the side that the receivers were on, like, the more receivers were on, and 3 guys just kinda came screaming like edge rushers on one side, forcing Anthony Richardson to the other side, and he's trying to do his best to, you know, um, fight and get to the strong side he wants to, and he ends up getting hit, and he ends up getting sacked, and it's like, if you're not going to blitz, you need to at least do something more creative coverage-wise than, or like pass rushing wise, than just kinda straight rushing and allowing the
Well, what
offensive
about
line
when the
and Daniels to
Eagles played the
dictate.
Packers week one? The Packers had to attempt a Hail Mary and they blitzed Zach Bond.
Yeah. I mean, and what the Bears had a spy up on Jaden Daniels. I'm sorry, did you think he was going to run 60 yards for a touchdown? Is that what you were worried about? If Jaden Daniels is gonna go try to run for it, be my freaking guest. I do not care. What are you spying? Or that he's gonna dump it
Well,
to the
I
running
think
back
that's
for
why people
60
mention.
yards?
I think that's why people mention the blitz because let's say he gets free and scrambles, he's going to have to start the whole like lateral like
Yes, exactly. You
game.
and then you're in a good spot. Like, it's what was so mind-boggling is that you only rushed 3, you had all the guys in the end zone, and then you just had the spy. The spy is, like, such an irrelevant player in this situation where you're just standing not even remotely close to the goal line to be able to make a play, and you're not rushing or attacking the quarter. You just don't exist. You might as well just ran 10 guys on the field if you were gonna do that. He serves 0 purpose in that situation. You might as well just had 10 guys, and it got you burned. Anyways, enough ranting about that because that was ridiculous. It was just so,
You good?
yeah, absurdly poorly executed, like, unbelievably bad. Anyways, Commanders on the road against the Giants. They're 4-point favorites. Like, the Giants, I don't know, they
Does
should
Daniel
cover,
Jones
right?
throw a touchdown tomorrow? I feel like no.
Probably not.
I don't think it'll ever happen again.
Like, the Giants, they should cover every, emotional victory like that, like, history tells us that that should result in a cover for um, the following team or the win, whatever.
I mean, I'm taking the Giants tomorrow because one, I have a couple reasons. Number one, you brought it up, the emotional burnout,
Mhm.
crazy win. I do feel like the Commanders are due for a letdown. They've completely failed to put the sad sack Bears away last week. The
Yeah,
Bears. I've never. The Bears. All the Bears did was this:
yeah,
shoot themselves in the foot.
mhm.
The Bears handed them a gift the previous drive by trying to run a pass. Sorry, to run a
No,
fullback
a
dive with a
fullback dive
backup
to
center
an offensive line.
when Roshan
Uh,
Johnson has a touchdown in every carry within the goal line in that scenario.
it's unbelievable. They're so poorly coached and so poorly ran. and they have just a lot of talent in the weaponry on the offensive side of the ball. But I'm taking the Commanders. I don't know. I think I'm just gonna keep fading the Giants kind of week in and week out,
I'm going to
like
take the Giants.
especially
I
at
think
home.
this is going to be the survivor pool buster
Killer.
game. I
Oh,
think
that's
so.
fun. That'd be
I could
fun.
I could theoretically
Listen,
see.
I hope the Giants win.
Yeah.
But next game, we got to pick up the pace a little bit here.
Yeah.
Next game, we have the Bears and the Cardinals. Um, Bears are 1.5 point underdogs on the road in Arizona. Arizona coming off a nice win. Bears coming off what is so clearly just a brutal loss. I think I'm gonna take Chicago though. I'll just take the team getting the points. Like Arizona, they look good against a soft Dolphins team. I wouldn't call the Bears soft. I think that this is a game that they're going to feel very desperate to have and like really kind of sell out for, considering how last week ended. And I do like the Bears defense a decent bit. So
Yeah,
take
I
Chicago.
agree with the Bears defense. Weirdly enough, this is a battle between uh, mentor and like disciple because Jonathan Gannon coached under Matt Eberflus
He's
with
an
the Indianapolis
Eberflus guy.
Colts. Yeah, he's an Eberflus guy. I'm going to take the Bears as well. I do feel like I think this is a Caleb game. This is going to be
Hmm.
a Caleb
Yeah,
Williams is
Cardinals
going to
defense is very bad.
yeah, this is a Caleb game. I think it's going to be exciting. You're going to see a fun offensive matchup between the two quarterbacks. I'm going to take
Yeah.
Chicago as well.
All right. We skip the Eagle game. Then we have the Rams and the Seahawks. The Seahawks are 1 point underdogs at home. Once again, no DK Metcalf. Very unfortunate for them with his MCL sprain. The Seahawks are. I'm gonna start. I'm gonna take the Rams -1. I think the Rams are gonna win. We saw them on Thursday, last 2 Thursdays ago, with Puka back on like Puka was on a snap, well, was on a pitch count, but the snaps he was out there, he was the guy. Like it was like, okay, Puka's on the field, we're getting him the ball, and he finishes with what 7 catches for a buck 18. Yeah, Puka and Cooper Cup being back
Yeah, Puka's
means the
also
world.
has a his knee is giving him issues now. Did you read about that?
Yeah, like he's just
Not a
he's a
fan of
banged up
that.
guy. Yeah, he but the Rams, they with the weaponry are effective, and Seattle just they it's a shame. They have a very, very soft defense, and I like what they have on offense, but when you take away Metcalf, it certainly removes an element. I think JSN's very good. Tyler Lockett is good for what he is, but when you're asking him to be like a focal point, it makes things a little more messy. I thought the Rams defense played well against a good Vikings team. I'm liking how the Rams are playing, not liking how the Seahawks are playing. I'm taking the Rams.
I'm going to take the Rams as well. I mean, I think the Rams can win this division as long as they can like have some semblance of health.
Hmm.
Seahawks are a soft team in my opinion. I
Yeah,
think
for sure.
Kyron Williams is going to have a big game. Excuse me, tomorrow,
Yeah.
and I think Blake Corum, their third round pick from the University of Michigan, they've been giving him more carries. I think you're gonna see a lot of runs against the
Yeah.
Seahawks. The Seahawks, like you said, Michael, you saw what happened when they played the Niners. Like they just
So
don't
now when they
tackle
played the
well.
Bills, yeah,
They just
they
don't
just
tackle well. They can't stop the run, and
yep.
they're soft. They're just a
Yep.
soft football team.
Next game is the game of the week. The Detroit Lions are on the road against the Green Bay Packers. This is a game for first place in the NFC North, game for the top seed in the NFC at this point in the year. The Lions look like the most complete team in football right now. You know, they put up 40 something points, and Jared Goff, did he even eclipse 100 yards by the time the game
Didn't need
ended?
to.
Like, he didn't need to. That's the point. Punt returns, defensive touchdowns, long run touchdowns. They're winning, they're scoring, and they're doing both of those things in very, very diverse ways. And that's usually a good formula for a season long, success story. Being able to, you know, trust your special teams to make big plays, your defense make big plays, your running game, your passing game. Just everything's clicking for Detroit. They're looking great. They're looking like world beaters. And I'm gonna ride it. I'm gonna take the Lions -3. The Packers, despite winning last week against Jacksonville, was anything but pretty. They kind of played down.
They almost
They
fell for the
still
trap.
Yeah, they almost fell for the trap. Jordan Love got hurt. He will be playing this week though, but he is banged up for sure. Um, I like the Packers. I do think they have some issues. I think Love isn't like the sharpest this year, and clearly he's been banged up multiple times now. And this is less to do. Like I do think this game's going to be close. I don't think the Lions are going to just brutalize the Packers, but I do think they're gonna win by like a touchdown or 10 points or something and kind of really assert themselves. I'm taking Detroit.
I'm taking Detroit as well.
This will be the game that if they do win, everyone they'll probably get moved to Super Bowl favorites if they win.
Yeah, I think with the
Road win
Lions,
too.
I think with the Detroit Lions, whenever they kind of start off slow and people thought they
Mhm.
were fraudulent a little
Yeah,
bit,
yeah.
you
I'm
notice their
praying
play
for it.
picked up significantly when Amon-Ra was finally healthy.
Mhm.
I think Amon-Ra is a low key offensive player of the year, maybe MVP type candidate because of how important he is in that offense. I know people don't bring it up a lot, but he really does everything on that team, blocking
Mhm.
on those outside runs.
Mhm.
All those weirdo trick plays that they run. He's a focal point in
Yeah,
them.
he's your third down security blanket. He's your sure hands guy. Like he does everything for sure.
Yeah, but I do think though the Achilles heel of the Lions is their defense, and I do think that if the Green Bay Packers can establish the run with Josh Jacobs and create long drives, I think they can win this game if they don't turn it over, and B force Goff to really throw because you just brought it up. Oh, Goff didn't really do a whole lot. Goff didn't really do a whole lot. Goff hasn't had a game this year where he's had to carry them to a win.
In the Vikings game, like, he had to put together some drives down the stretch, I would say.
Yeah,
I know your point. I know the point you're making, and I think it's fair. But yeah. By the way, I forgot talking about the Lions made me think of the Lions tax. So I changed my pick way back when from the Titans to the Patriots. I'm taking the Patriots plus 3.5. Totally forgot about the teams after they play the Lions, that they get ravaged the next week.
oh
Um,
crap, you're right. I'm
yeah.
changing my pick too.
Yeah, so we're gonna double switch fading of the Titans, taking the Patriots. Doesn't matter who's playing quarterback. Um,
Yeah, but I originally took the Titans because
I forgot about the Lions
I was
thing. I
thinking of
just
I don't
forgot.
know the Travis the Henry tank,
What? The
the guy from Colorado.
the Travis Hunter?
Yeah, that's it, Travis Hunter.
Yeah. I mean, New England's also tanking too. They're both tanking, so we'll see. Um, Anyways, next game we have Sunday Night Football flexed in opposition of the Eagles. We have Joe Flacco versus Sam Darnold. Uh, the Vikings
Yeah,
are 5-point favorites at home against the Colts. The Colts are 7-1 against the spread, man. Like they cover some damn spreads, and they might cover another one. I don't know. I'm gonna take the Vikings -5 though. I think they're gonna cover. I think they're gonna win. The Vikings are very much due for a win.
I agree.
Obviously, they won't. It's only 2 games in a row. It started off 5-0. They lost 2 in a row, but it's just like they they need to prove to themselves that okay, like you can't lose 3 in a row after starting 5-0, or no one's going to take you seriously. And I think they're gonna. I think they're cognizant of that. I think all the indie drama is not going to play well, even for Flacco. So I'm taking Minnesota.
I'm taking Minnesota too, Michael, because the biggest weakness of the Colts, I say this week in and week out, um, is that their outside defense is atrocious. They're one of the worst in the National Football League. So Jay Jettas is going to have a monster game. I think Jordan Addison is going to have a bounce back game for them. It's all going to depend on Darnold. Darnold craps himself and falls back down to earth. I don't really foresee why the Vikings can't win this game, in my opinion. So I'm taking Minnesota.
Yeah. Monday night, we have the Buccaneers at the Chiefs. Chiefs are 9-point favorites. That feels large.
Yeah. Have you seen the Buccaneers offense when they don't have any outside receiving threats?
Listen, they put up like 26 points against Atlanta.
Well, that's because Atlanta doesn't play defense.
Well, yeah, that's pretty fair. The Chiefs are 7-0, looking like they're going to go 8-0. I just Tampa does not have a lot of things going for them right now, so I'm going to take Kansas City.
Yeah, I'm taking Kansas City as well. Don't really see why. Well, I know this is a rematch of the COVID Bowl. Whoopee. Yeah, I mean, I think Mahomes, the Buccaneers' pass defense is shambolic. We keep talking about Mahomes every week, oh, when's he gonna stop sucking? And that Raider game was a fine example of why he's immune to criticism, because if the Raiders were even a semi-competent football team, they probably should have beaten them.
Yeah.
The Chiefs gave them ample chances to let them come back, and they just couldn't because
they're the
they
Raiders.
suck. They suck ass. I mean, this is a fact. Yeah, I'm still taking the Chiefs because I think Baker is starting to unravel. Without his weapons. We'll talk about it when we talk about the Eagle game next, about unnecessary criticism for injuries.
Yeah. So on to the Eagle game. Eagles are 7.5 point favorites at home against Jacksonville. The Eagles are banged up. No Slay, no Goddard. Obviously, still no Mailata. But
so are the Jags.
Jags are banged up. Is ETN's playing though? Tank Bigsby was questionable this week. Just not fully healthy.
They're going to showcase ETN to trade him tomorrow.
The Jags look better for sure than they did earlier in the season. However, they still have issues.
The league's worst pass defense.
Yeah, bad on defense. I still don't love how they call plays. And the Eagles really should just take care of business. They took care of business the last 2 weeks on the road with two very, very nice, convincing, feel good about it wins. And this is one you got to, you look at the stretch they have from now until the Ravens game, and they're home against Jacksonville, at Dallas, home on Thursday against Washington, at the Rams on Sunday Night Football. Those are 4 games where you absolutely need to win 3 of them. And it would be really, if you want to be the contender and the serious team that you portray yourselves as, you really probably should win all 4 games. I know it's hard and whatever, but it's something that I know if you're going to be a Super Bowl contender, that those sort of teams are capable of doing. This is a game that you need to take care of business and kind of stomp the Jags a little bit, beat up on Jacksonville, put up big points on offense, cover your spread of 7.5, and defensively need to kind of keep it going. I don't need the defense today to take a week off and all of a sudden you're giving up, 28 points and you're sweating it out a little bit. The Eagles offense needs to put up, almost 6 touchdowns to feel good about it and win a game. So I'm expecting them to take care of business because It looks like the defense has hit a new stride. Your young guys, Cooper DeJean and Quinyon Mitchell, have really, really been massive for this defense. Their defensive line looks like it's cooking a little bit more. Nolan Smith had some great pass rushing grades on Sunday. Uh, Jordan Davis, his snap count's going down, but that's because he's playing really well against the run, and teams are just not looking to run the ball against the Eagles, so they're not coming out and run front, so they're, putting in their more athletic defensive linemen, interior defensive linemen, Moro Ojomo and Milton Williams. The linebackers are limited, but for what they are being asked to do, they do it pretty well for the most part. And, you know, you're getting obviously no Slay, but he's been playing well on the outside, and Isaiah Rodgers played well in relief. You're getting getting stuff from the defense that you've been asking for a while. You got 2 turnovers, 2 big ones, I might add, the huge interception on a big play, and then when the Bengals had their last gasp of air of trying to stay in the game, you force a fumble, and it really just totally killed the game over right there. Awesome, great job. So, really, really nice to see. I'd like to see some more turnovers this week, and, I'd like to see the offense continue to thrive. So, yeah, I'm excited.
I'm taking the Eagles -7.5 tomorrow. I do feel better about the team. It does seem to me like during the bye week that something happened. I don't know if it was in house with the head coach where I don't know, he had a moment of self reflection or looked
Well,
at
sounds
his.
like the players said something. According to Brian Baldinger and now the Jeff McClain story, that Lane Johnson, along with Jordan Mailata and Landon Dickerson, went to the coaching staff and was like, "We need to figure this out. Mainly, like we need run the ball more, commit to the run. We're paying a lot of money to a very, very, very good running back. Let's lean on him, and our quarterback's also effective with his legs. Let's get that threat going, and everything will open up." And shocker, everything has opened up. And shocker, Jalen Hurts can throw over the middle of the field. Who knew? Jalen Hurts can throw from within the pocket. Who knew? Like, I don't know. It's so frustrating the way that he gets talked about. And then he just totally disproves. What was he like? 8 of 9 for 100 something yards over the middle and a touchdown. Like it was just, it was surgical.
Yeah, and I think to me that when they basically stop making Jalen, if you look at this season, when Jalen's not asked to play hero ball, he's looked really good. And when I
Yeah.
say not asked to play hero ball, I mean when you look at the times in the Saints game where he stays in the pocket, where they played the Falcons up until the last drive of the game where he threw that egregious pick when they,
Yeah, that was bad.
that was really bad.
Mhm.
Or like obviously the Tampa game where they were just, it was a complete disaster class. But
Mhm.
I mean, like Michael, like the Eagles are banged up on offense, but they're not, the injuries aren't like to your 2 all pro wide receivers, and you have no depth at that position. So you're trying to force to throw the ball to the outside where like now it's like it's not even they're not even a run first team. That's the thing. They're not really run first. They're like a balanced offense
Mhm.
where depending on what the looks the defense gives you, you're
It
you're
can
gonna
kill you in any way for
you're gonna
sure.
attack it wherever. Like the Detroit Lions do
Yeah,
that. Like the
yeah,
Detroit Lions. And I don't think there's any shocker that like right now you look at the NFC. Do you think the Eagles have the second best offense in the NFC behind Detroit? I mean, I
yeah,
think they do.
yeah,
Who's better
yeah.
than the
No,
Eagles
yeah,
besides the
I agree.
Lions?
Yeah,
You know?
yeah. I think my favorite part of Saquon Barkley, um, is his ability for the late game big play. Like, he is a guy that at any moment can obviously break a big run, but especially in the second half when the game feels like it's, you're feeling like the climax of the game. You're feeling like, you know, the tipping point to really decide who's going to win is approaching. And maybe it's because the Eagles are up and they're trying to milk the game away. Maybe it's because it's tied and they're trying to kill clock and whatever. He It feels like every time you need him in those moments, he's going to break a big run and really kinda demoralize a team. Like, it's, "Okay, you're a defense, you just punted it back or you scored and you kicked it and you need to stop, and first down, let's get going here." And it's like they run it to Barkley and he breaks one for like a 35-yard run. It's like, damn, like it just feels like it sucks the life out of the defense, and then you can just kill, push, 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 and the game is just kind of milk the game out at that point. And he did it again last week multiple times. He did it against the Giants, and it's I think it's my favorite part. Like, it's what I enjoy the most, that he's the guy that kind of steps on the throat at the end of games to just put it away and finish it. And that's something that the Eagles haven't really. You think about like the running backs that they've had over the course of history. It's probably since, like, McCoy, where they haven't had one running back that's capable of just kinda doing that. Like, Miles Sanders, he was capable of the big runs, but it was a little bit of a different sort of, like, he would just break a long run touchdown a couple times a year, and it was like, "Oh, there goes Miles." But this is like that. It's like the closer, Derrick Henry gets called the closer a lot in Baltimore because, if you just hand the ball to him, he'll just put the game away, whatever. And I think Saquon does that very similarly
Do you
and
know
very
what
effectively.
what this is kind of reminding me of
Mhm.
with how the season's been progressing? Like, I'm knocking on my desk right now. It kind of reminds me a little bit of 2017 Eagles, where no, it
No, I
sounds
know, I know,
ridiculous.
I know, I know. I knew what you
Where
I just knew what you were gonna say.
where like we were like, what the hell is Doug doing? Like, he's a moron. Why are we not running the ball? And
Yeah.
now it's like, or why we're not being more balanced? Where now it's like, oh my God, Saquon, like, oh, we're closing out games with Saquon. We're
Yeah.
chewing up clock. Like, to me, like, this is a big game tomorrow, I think, because, like, if this is like the bad Sirianni where we're gonna fumble bleep around with an awful football team
Mhm.
and not to just decimate them,
Mhm.
or if this is good Sirianni where they're gonna win like 38-10, like we're gonna see ample Kenny Pickett minutes,
Yeah, like,
or not, or we're going to screw around and let Trevor Lawrence look like, the generational quarterback he's been touted to, or if Jalen's going to make dumb mistakes. Like, I think it's kind of pivotal because of the stretch they're going to go on.
yeah, I think in the comparison to 2017, everyone cites the Thursday night road Panthers game was the game that they won that made all the fans say, "Oh, this team's different. This team's serious. This team is capable of doing what we want them to do." And I think if the Bengals were a little bit better, or maybe if the first half wasn't so traumatic of like the game, not of the season, not the Bengals game, but like if the first half didn't look so ugly through the first 4 weeks, I think maybe that Bengals game would have flipped some minds. I do think that Bengals game flipped some minds into heavy positive, but I gave that 4-game stretch where I don't think there's gonna be a singular Panthers game unless it's just like the Ravens game, like they shellac Baltimore on the road, which, like, we can whatever. But if they maybe it's that home Thursday night Commanders game. Maybe it's all 4 games combined. Maybe if the Eagles win these next 4 games and each time they look good, like, you should beat the Jags. You should beat Dallas. I know you've struggled down there, but you're significantly better than the Cowboys. There's no reason you should lose that game. You wanna win the division? You gotta beat the Commanders at home. You win that game. You're a better team than the Rams. I know they're playing well, and I know at that point they'll probably be playing even better, but you're a better team than them. You win these next 4 games, and you win because you're the better team and you look like the better team. everyone's heads will slowly, slowly start to turn and get ready for that Ravens game, similarly to how people got ready for that Eagles-Rams game in 2017. Granted,
Mhm.
things went very ugly for a second in that game, and I don't think we'll have the same fortunes with Kenny Pickett, if that ends up coming true, but, uh, I think that'll be the game that everyone is looking at it very similarly to that game where it's like, these are just 2 top dogs going at it, and as long as they hold their own and look good in it, regardless of the outcome, people will feel good.
I agree, man. This was kind of feels like tomorrow. Like, remember when they played the Cardinals, like Bruce Arians, like
Yeah,
last
yeah, were they
year
wait, last year?
or
No, like
2017 when
yeah,
they played the
yeah, yeah.
Cardinals, where we're like, hey, this guy's a good coach, but it's like he's
Mhm,
at the end of the line.
mhm,
Kind of feels the same way with Doug. I feel kind of bad for him.
yeah,
Um, yeah,
yeah,
yeah. But that's our show, everybody. Thank you for
mhm.
tuning in. Love getting this message. We're having trouble streaming on X, Twitter. This may be an
Awesome.
issue on X's end. Thanks, Elon.
Thank you, Elon.
Thank you, Elon. Yeah. So thank you for tuning in, everybody. I want everyone to enjoy the rest of their day.
Mhm.
Big college football day today. If you're from the
Yeah.
area, Penn State versus Ohio State. Um,
Yeah, enjoy some college football, enjoy some afternoon hockey.
Go Flyers.
Go Flyers, Sixers play tonight, watch at your own risk. But
Yeah.
yeah. Anyways, thank you everybody.
Thank you, everybody.